Alright, man, I'm giving it a few days. I've given it a few days since the finale of The Last of Us Season 2, bro, on HBO, man. I've, just been giving myself a little bit of time to think about things, and I've been replaying the second game, for like, I don't know, the 25th time or something like that. I've played it a lot of freaking times, man. I've been replaying it again because, The Last of Us, Part 1 and 2, my favorite story of all time, bro. My favorite games of all time. I love them both to death, bro. And very passionate about those two games, man. Joel, my favorite character, bro. Like in any game, show, movie ever. So like the general consensus I have been seeing when it comes to season 2 has been that it was just awful. And before the season even started, people were having issues with Bella Ramsey being Ellie. Now, do I think Bella was perfect for Ellie, in season 2 to begin with? No. Uh, but I also don't think it was terrible. I think there was more issues writing wise that needs to be talked about other than just the castings. Um, I'll talk about the good things first, man. I'll talk about the good things first. My favorite episode of the season was episode 2. Spoilers. I'm just saying it right now, they're spoilers. So if you've not watched this, if you don't know anything about what happens, click off the video, bro. I'm giving you 5 seconds. Alright, if you're still here, that's on you, man. Yeah, episode 2, when Joel gets, offed. I really liked that episode as a whole. You had the attack on Jackson, which you didn't see something like that in the game, and it was really cool to see Tommy taking on a bloater like that, bro, and just seeing how Jackson is set up for an attack. And with the amount of infected that there were, and how they let the dogs loose and all that, and Tommy being backed into a corner with the flamethrower, man, it was really cool, bro. That was a really cool scene. I really loved that. And the chase scene with Abby when she stepped on the tendril, and she woke up all those infected, and they chased her, and just like in the game, she was crawling between the fence and that building, and then she got saved by Joel. All that was just like the game, very well done. And we go to the part where how Dina, or not Dina, how Abby learned of Joel's name made more sense, I guess, in the show than it did in the game, because in the show, Dina is looking for Joel, and he was with Abby because he rescued her, and Dina was looking for Joel, and she yells out, "Joel!" or something like that, and, that gave it away right there. So that makes sense. Whereas in the game, it was Tommy introducing both him and Joel, pretty much. Joel introduced himself, but Tommy started it. Yeah, and then, the whole death scene with Joel, it was... I would say the game did it better. I'll just say it now, I prefer the game. I'm always gonna prefer the game. I love that game to death, man. Like, that... I could play it so many times over and not be bored of it, man. So I'm always gonna prefer the game. But that scene was good for what it was, bro. For being its own thing, that was very well done. I liked how Joel had that smart ass comment before Abby went and got, when she was getting the golf club. He was like, "Why don't you just say whatever speech you got rehearsed and get this over with?" In the show, I can't remember his exact quote, but it was something, just get this over, just shut up and get this over with already, or something like that. And I like that, man. It was different, but I enjoyed that still. And the part where Abby like stuffed the broken golf club into his neck when Ellie was watching, bro, that was brutal. And like, I even shed some tears during that moment, man, just like I did during the game. So it still hit me emotionally at that moment. It still hit me emotionally, man. So overall, for me, episode 2 got a 10 out of 10, bro. Like, fully freaking enjoyed that episode. It was perfect for me. Um, what else was good, man? I think I liked how I liked what they did with the scars. And they introduced the spores, I think, in a pretty cool way. Um, in the hospital when the WLF sent some guys down there, and they ended up being surprised by the spores, and then I think that was a really cool way to introduce the spores, and they were like, it's in the air, and they had to seal off the lower levels. I think that was a cool way to just introduce the spores. Because in season one they didn't have spores because the characters were wearing gas masks a lot. They wanted to have those facial reactions more clear without a mask on. Something else that I didn't really mind, but it was a change from the game, was they introduced Abby's motive at the very start of the season. They introduced her motive being that Joel killed her dad, and they said that she is going to look for Joel. And I like that scene when they were sitting there at her dad's grave. And, you know, she was like, when we find him, we kill him slowly or something like that. Like, I like that whole scene. Showing the whole group, showing the whole Abby crew. I like that. It was, it kind of gave me goosebumps, thinking about the future and what's going to happen between her and Joel and her and Ellie, bro. That gave me goosebumps. Honestly, I think Caitlin Dever is really good as Abby. Um, I think that was another good part about the show. Now let's talk about some of the negative things, I guess, for me. Um, the big thing that stands out to me is it just felt rushed. The other big thing is Jesse is one of my favorite characters in the game, and they treated him differently. I don't think it'll be necessarily bad. Like, in the game, Jesse's like, if you would have told me that you were going to Seattle to get revenge for Joel, I would have came with you. But in the show, they had that vote in the council, and Jesse voted against going to Seattle. He was he was not one of the 3 that voted for going to Seattle. He voted against it. And, he was just very negative about the whole thing. He was very hostile towards Ellie. And, in the game, he was just more so like, he was there to support her. He wanted to get revenge for Joel until he learned of Dina being pregnant. And then he's like, he's a reasonable one. He's like, we gotta go back. And that's fair. Towards, the end of Jesse, when he got killed, he was kind of coming around and being like the game, the game Jesse. He was like, if I was ever lost and, was in trouble, I'd hope, I'd know that you would come running through hell to save me. And he was saying that to Ellie, bro, and that was kind of like game Jesse. I don't, I think the show Jesse was okay, but I was just so attached to the game Jesse that it just didn't really sit right with me. How they changed his character that much, like a complete 180 pretty much. For the most part, I just didn't like how hostile he seemed, and it kind of made me not like him much in the show. He was still reasonable. He was still very reasonable. He had a kid, and he was like, "I can't die. Dina can't die. I'm having I'm gonna be a dad." That's fair. He's still being reasonable, just in a very different way. Um, but yeah, as far as like it being rushed, there was not enough violence. The game part 2 of the game is very violent. There's a lot of interactions. Obviously, in the game, the WLF and the scars and the infected that you kill, it's a game. You're gonna kill a lot of things. You're gonna encounter a lot of things. You're not gonna get all that in the show. You're not gonna get nearly that much action in the show. So, I don't think there should have been a lot of action, but I think there should have been a little bit more. And I think the brutality of season 2 of the show it was not as, it doesn't hold a candle to the game. Another kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of iffy about the Owen and Mel thing. Um, when Ellie went and killed them, hunted them down and killed them. Uh, the Nora scene, I really like the Nora scene. I like that a lot, actually. The Nora scene was pretty well done, I would say. But yeah, when she went and encountered Owen and Mel, and she shot Owen through the neck, and that bullet went through and grazed Mel's neck. Mel being pregnant and all. Um, she killed two birds with one bullet, bro. Two birds with one stone. And I'm kind of iffy about that. I think the part where Mel was like, get the baby out, and she was telling Ellie how to cut her stomach and like to get the baby out, and as she was dying, Mel was like, you have 30 seconds. I'm gonna bleed out. You have 30 seconds. And she was trying to get that baby out. She knew she was dying. She was trying to get that baby out, bro. And I think the part that made me shed a tear a little bit, man, was when she was about to die. She was like, is it out? Did you get it? Like, she didn't even know. She didn't even know, and Ellie did not give her the confirmation that it was out. And she didn't even try, man. And then, Ellie accidentally killing a pregnant woman. She didn't accidentally kill Mel in the game, she purposefully killed her. Now, they did attack first, but Ellie still didn't have to kill Mel. She stabbed her right in the neck, man. She didn't have to. But yeah, I think it hits Ellie harder that she killed a pregnant woman accidentally, and I think Bella Ramsey did a really good job acting that scene out. Being heartbroken and all that. I like that part of it. After after the shot was fired, the acting between Mel, Ellie, those actors, and just how all that played down after the shot got fired. I loved it so much. It was very emotional, man. Another thing that I don't know how I feel about, they put Ellie on Scar Island, and they said that they were gonna put Ellie on Scar Island in the game for a little bit, but it never went down. It never happened, obviously. But yeah, they had Ellie being the one on Scar Island. Obviously, Abby's gonna be there as well. But they had Ellie end up there after she got washed off, taken out of the boat from that big wave. And the Scars were gonna hang her, and the Scars thought she was a wolf. The Scars thought Ellie was a wolf. And then they heard these sirens going off because they were being attacked by the wolves who were starting a war on their island. And the thing that went through my mind is, if the Scars knew that Ellie was a wolf, if they thought that, they would not just let her go. They would have killed her. Whether it's quick or whatever, they would have killed her. They wouldn't just let her go. They wouldn't just say leave her. That's not the Scars. They're gonna kill you. So I don't know. That one didn't really make much sense to me, but I like what they did with the kids, because the kids are being taught at a young age to, they're being taught the ways of the elders, man. They're being molded to how the elders of the Scars want them to be. And I like that the kid was the one who signaled for them to kill Ellie. I like that a lot. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about Ellie being on Scar Island. There was a few big changes from the show to the game. Not all are bad. It is a show, so some things are gonna be played out differently. It just has to be for it to make sense for people who are watching the show and never played the game. I think people who never played the game would find the show quite enjoyable. But people who played the game and enjoyed the game's a masterpiece. So there was very high expectations for the show, and I think it was, I think it was always gonna fail at some point. you know, in some way, it was always going to fail because it's hard to live up to that masterpiece that part 2 of the story was of the game, in my opinion. That's my opinion. You know, a lot of people will get up in arms about that opinion. People call that story trash, man, and all that. But me, I love the story overall. Part 1 and part 2, I love the story, man. Now I just sat here and talked for ages. We got Penguins here saying Last of Us Season 2 was not good. We're not gonna watch this whole thing, probably. We're just gonna get an idea of what he was saying and see if it brings back any memories for me.
I watched The Last of Us Season 2 finale after stream tonight, which was pretty late, so I didn't finish watching it till like 3 a.m., and I said, fiddlesticks, hoo-wee, I need to catch some Z's. I'll go ahead and do the review in the morning. Couldn't sleep, so now it's 5 a.m., and
Jeez.
I said, well, might as well do it now. It's never any fun not being able to go to sleep, just like it wasn't any fun watching Last of Us Season 2. Like most people, I
wouldn't go that far.
I thought they did a great job. Season 2, I was skeptical on them not recasting Ellie and keeping Bella Ramsey as Ellie because it's supposed to take place 5 years into the future, but obviously Bella Ramsey in real life was not going to age that much in...
That is fair. That is fair. That's a fair criticism, and that's one that a lot of people had. Now, for me, the casting wasn't going to change anything for me. It was just the way that things were written sometimes. You know, it wasn't all bad. He said it wasn't enjoyable. I'm not going to go that far. I enjoyed it. I'm passionate about the story of the game. I was always going to enjoy this season, really, no matter what happened. I'm still going to have my critiques for it. But, you know, as just someone who loves it, is passionate about it, I was always going to enjoy it in some fashion. But, yeah, the recasting of Ellie is fair. Although, I think Bella did not do that bad as Ellie, man. She killed it in Season 1. Sure, there was some things in Season 2 that could have used a different actor, man, but that was not the biggest issue at all for me.
You know, the 2 years it took between seasons. So, in the show, Ellie still looks exactly the same, but is supposed to be 5 years older. Also, Ellie still acts exactly the same. So it really conflicts with what the character's supposed to be portrayed as here, because Ellie still looks and acts like a 14-year-old from Season 1, even though she's supposed to be 19. So this was a big complaint I had that I already had mentioned earlier with, you know, the episode with Joel's death, where Ellie just doesn't feel like she's changed. She still feels like that same kid from Season 1 who's just constantly joking and extremely immature. And unfortunately, that doesn't change throughout Season 2 at all. It still feels really out of place. In the game, Ellie has a lot more grit. Ellie is also smart in the game. For some reason, they made the decision for The Last of Us Season 2 to make Ellie dumb, to the point where she even says that she's stupid.
I remember that.
Why?
That didn't really make much sense to me either. I mean, Ellie in the game would never do that. Ellie could figure shit out on her own. I mean, Dina was, you know, the more reasonable one, and they gave Dina a much more of a leadership role in the show, when in reality, like, in the game, it was Ellie that was leading the charge that whole time. But yeah, they gave Dina much more of a leadership role. And, oh yeah, the other thing, when, I kind of like how when Ellie's gas mask broke, or no, in the show she got bit on the arm. I'm thinking of the game, but yeah, she got bit on the arm saving Dina, and Dina saw that. And then they get into the theater, and Dina has a gun pointed at her because she thinks she's about to turn. That's fair, you know. I like that a little bit, man. I like that. It made the moment quite suspenseful. Obviously, people who played the game know that Dina's not gonna shoot Ellie. But yeah, I like that. But what I did not like so much was Ellie's reaction to Dina being pregnant. You know, because in the game, Ellie was upset. She's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, we came all this way, and you're pregnant this whole time. Now, you know, I have this on my shoulders. I have a pregnant girlfriend on my shoulders." But in the show, she's just like, "What? and then they had that makeout session, and, all the other spicy stuff happened. Like, she was so happy about it. People were up in arms about her saying she's gonna be a dad. I'm not. I didn't think anything of that. I'm like, okay, Dina's the mom, Ellie's the dad. Yeah, that's something that just people say, bro. Like, it was a joke. Um, but yeah, I didn't like how they handled Dina revealing she's pregnant. Um, but I liked how they handled Ellie, or Dina finding out that Ellie's immune. I mean, they had Dina sitting up all night with the light and the gun on Ellie because she thought she was gonna turn. So I like that scene, but I also did not like the pregnancy part of it.
Just kind of betrays the character. Yeah, she's supposed to be like reckless and everything, but that doesn't mean that she's some like lobotomite. That change just didn't really make sense to me. Pretty much all of the good traits of Ellie from the game were given to Dina in the show. Dina feels like the actual main character of season 2, whereas Ellie just feels like the quirky sidekick constantly scrambling to make a quip. Now, of course, I've seen a lot of people saying that it's all Bella Ramsey's acting's fault here for
No, it's
the
not.
lackluster season. And I don't really agree with that. Did Bella Ramsey knock it out of the park? A fucking grand slam, grand salami performance? No. But I
It's
don't
also
think
not
this
her fault,
material would
really.
work even if they did recast Ellie for somebody else that could embody, the grit and the intimidation that Ellie had in the game better. Like, I don't think it would change if the material didn't. Because for
Exactly.
some reason, Ellie is written to still be like this kid that takes nothing seriously, and all the characters that interact with Ellie in this world interact with her as kind of a babysitter. Best example is Jessie, where Jessie comes and rescues her and Dina, saves the day, and then the rest of that episode and now into this episode, there's no like actual friendship between them, and in fact there really hasn't been on screen at all for the whole season, but it's so egregious here in these last 2 episodes where like they're not friendly, whereas in the game you get the feeling that they will do anything for each other to keep each other safe. In the show, Jessie is literally like the babysitter here, just having to sigh and put up with Ellie's attitude and just being like this constant brat. So I don't even think that's Bella Ramsey's fault. That is the fault of the writing around this character. They were totally off the mark with what they tried to do here. It was much, much worse than the video game counterpart. And even if you haven't played the game, I just think most people will get the impression that Ellie is like this really annoying character. There just wasn't a single moment in the season where you get the sense that she is on this unstoppable quest for revenge, an insatiable appetite for vengeance, overcome with the desire to kill the people that killed Joel. It never feels that way because it just never seems like she cares that much. It feels more almost like a slice of life sometimes, as opposed to like this dark descent into revenge and the effect.
Yeah, and another thing is they also, after Joel died, they skipped ahead 3 months before they went and looked for Abby. Meanwhile, in the game, Tommy left the same day or the next day, ahead of Ellie, and Ellie and Dina headed out really like the next day as well. So like that's also something I did not really like because I mean they had to wait, I guess, because Ellie got injured from when Joel got killed, and she was in the hospital for all that time. But like, I think it's better off. It sets more of a sense of urgency if you have Ellie and Dina go after Abby, like immediately. Like you don't have to put Ellie in the hospital for 3 months, man. Let her go after it immediately. Like that would have been eating her alive for Ellie in the game. There's no chance that she would have survived those 3 months without getting the fudge out of the hospital and going. Not a chance. She was yelling at Tommy in the game because Tommy was, questioning going because they wouldn't have the people to defend Jackson. They would leave it vulnerable. And, like Ellie was yelling at him. She's like, whether you go or not, I'm going. tomorrow. Like, and, you know, I don't know. It just wasn't that sense of urgency, and I think they shouldn't have had the 3-month time skip. But yeah.
It has on everyone around them. The character was written to just be constantly joking, which again, I don't understand why. Because in the game, yeah, Ellie, of course, is still kind of zany, but it's every minute of every scene in season 2. Like, in between perilous, sequences, where they're trying to be quiet or like about to fight some infected, in between that, they're joking. In fact, sometimes in the middle of it, like in the very beginning of the season, where they're about to like kill
Like the clickers.
one of the clicker, and they're doing like sign language back and forth, and she does like the miming that she's stabbing her neck and like blood's pouring out. Like, it's always joking, which doesn't work for how serious this is supposed to be.
Exactly.
It doesn't feel intense. It takes a lot of that, like, on edge, hold your breath. Are they going to make it out alive? Anxiety out of it, because it's constantly broken up with Ellie making a joke or something.
Yeah, I mean, Ellie 100% would know the severity of that situation. I mean, even when she was 14 years old, she would know the severity of a clicker. They're dangerous, bro. Like, they're not a game. So yeah, I think the moral of the story here, I'm gonna wrap this up, man, because it's probably been a little bit of a long video, but I think to sum it up, was the casting perfect? No, it was not. But the casting is also not the biggest issue. I think if the writing on some of the episodes and some of the moments, and that caused some of the changes from the show compared to the game, the writing is the issue. If the writing had been better in those moments, I think we wouldn't be talking about the casting as much. Sure, you can talk about the age gap, Ellie, Bella not getting older like Ellie did in the game. You can talk about that. That's all. That's going to be a valid criticism. That's fine. But if the writing had been better in some of those moments, and it was more like the game, or just better in general, didn't have to be exactly like the game. I didn't expect it to be exactly like the game. In fact, I wanted some differences. Just not exactly how they, what they were. But yeah, if the writing had been better, I don't think we'd be talking about the casting as much. I was fine with pretty much all the castings, honestly. Like, I can deal with Bella being Ellie in season 2. Like, I know she's older. I don't need to see her being older. I know she's older. So that was fine with me personally. But yeah, man, just the writing, it didn't make it hard to watch for me. It was just some things that I just did not agree with. I'm not going out here and saying the show was terrible. I enjoyed the show. What rating would I give the show? Probably like a 7. The writing did bring it down quite a bit. Because some of it just did not make much sense. Yeah, the game for me, 10 out of 10, bro. Like, honestly, I love it. But yeah, the show, it was never gonna live up to that masterpiece level of the part 2 of the game that I have. That I think it is. It was never gonna be that. I knew that. But yeah, man, the writing could have been better, and that's the moral of the story. It's the writing, bro. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below, man. What did you think of Season 2 of The Last of Us? Probably a little bit of a lengthy video. It's just something I'm passionate about, man. Wanted to get my thoughts out there. Had to take a couple days to, gather some of my thoughts, think about it more, and, just let everything sink in. With that being said, I'm looking forward to Season 3, seeing Abby's perspective on everything, seeing what they do with that. I don't believe they started even filming yet, so they're gonna see some of this criticism, and maybe the writing will be better in this season 3, man. Hopefully. But yeah, man. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please drop a like, hit that subscribe button. I'll catch y'all in the next one, man.